I never imagined the words that would break me would come from the woman I shared my life with. For years, I believed marriage was patience, humor, and the ability to laugh even when life wasn't perfect. But one night, her laughter didn't sound loving. It sounded like mockery. It began small, little jokes she made when we were out with friends. The kind that stings but you ignore because you care about the person saying them. Ethan's the sensitive one. She'd tease with a cute grin, and everyone would laugh. I laughed too, pretending it didn't hurt. But when those jokes followed us home, spoken behind closed doors, something in me started to harden. We'd been married for 6 years. I worked as a systems analyst, spent my days buried in screens and numbers. Melissa, was lively. She lit up every room she stepped into. That's what pulled me toward her. She had a spark I didn't. But somewhere along the way, that spark turned sharp. One night, as we lay in bed, the space between us felt like a canyon. I tried to close it the only way I knew, by reaching for her hand, reminding her I was still here, still wanting her. She pulled away, half laughing. "You're so predictable, Ethan," she said, rolling her eyes. I froze. She turned toward me, smirking. "Maybe if you weren't so mechanical about it, I'd actually feel something." The words hit like ice. Mechanical, predictable. I wanted to ask what she meant, but her laughter buried the question. I turned away, staring up at the ceiling, waiting for sleep that never came. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened, made coffee, played music, hummed while scrolling on her phone. I sat quietly, wondering when our marriage became a performance I never signed up for. 2 weeks later, we hosted a small dinner. Melissa invited her friend Clara, a woman I'd only met once before. She was kind, attentive, and unlike most of Melissa's friends, she asked questions that felt genuine. Dinner was fine until Melissa opened. Something inside me shifted. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness either. It was the slow realization that I had been holding on to a version of her that didn't exist anymore. When morning came, she pretended nothing had happened. Again, coffee, music, scrolling. But this time, I didn't sit at the table. I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and told her I was heading out early. She didn't even bother to look up. I think that was the moment I finally understood how far gone she was and how far gone I had let myself become. I drove aimlessly for hours that morning, the radio low, my thoughts louder than anything coming through the speakers. Every memory of us flashed through my head. The way she used to reach for my hand first. The way we used to laugh at things that never mattered. Somewhere along the line, the laughter changed its purpose. It wasn't shared anymore. It was aimed for the next few days. I kept my distance. Work became the quiet escape. I stayed late, came home when she was already asleep. She didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she just didn't care. The silence between us stopped feeling strange. It became the language our marriage spoke. One Friday evening, I came home earlier than usual. Melissa was in the living room with Clara again. They were drinking wine, music humming softly in the background. I hesitated at the door, but Clara smiled and waved me over. "Hey, Ethan," she greeted warmly. We were talking about the trip to the lake next weekend. Melissa barely glanced up from her glass. "Yeah, but you don't need to. Come. It's just us girls." Her tone was casual, dismissive. I nodded, pretending it didn't sting. "Right. Of course." Clara's eyes shifted to her, then back to me. "Actually," she said, "it might be nice if you did come. You could use some Heir too, right? Melissa rolled her eyes. He's not exactly the adventurous type, Clara. Something inside me cracked, quietly, like glass under pressure. I smiled anyway. Maybe not, I said. But I'm learning. The evening dragged on, awkwardly, until Clara finally decided to leave. As she walked past me toward the door, she gently touched my arm and whispered, "You deserve someone who sees you." That line replayed in my head all night. It wasn't flirting. It was truth. Simple, painful truth. The next week, Melissa's indifference grew louder. She barely spoke unless it was to correct, mock, or complain. I stopped trying to fix it. I stopped trying at all. Then, one night, she came home late. A faint smell of perfume that wasn't hers clung to her clothes. I said nothing. She looked at me, almost daring me to ask. When I didn't, she smirked. "Something wrong?" she said, tossing her purse onto the couch. "No," I said quietly. "Just noticing." "Noticing what?" "How far you've drifted." She laughed. That same cold laugh that used to make my heart sink. "God, you're dramatic." I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and said the words I never imagined I'd say. "Then I'll make it simple." She blinked. "I'm done," I said. "Done? With what?" "With this," I answered. "With being the joke in my own marriage." Her expression shifted from confusion to amusement. "You're really leaving over a few jokes?" "No," I said. "I'm leaving because you stopped being kind." For once, she didn't have a comeback. I didn't yell. I didn't slam the door. I just walked out. 2 days later, she called. I didn't answer. Then, she texted, "We need to talk." I ignored that too. Hours later, another message. "Clara stopped by. She told me what you said." I hadn't told Clara anything more than that single moment of honesty. But somehow Clara's words had reached her, and they cut deeper than anything I could have said. When I finally saw Melissa to sign the separation papers, weeks later, she looked smaller, not in size, but in certainty. "Clara said I humiliated you," she murmured. She said, "I made you feel small." I didn't answer. She lifted her eyes, glossy with regret. She said I was cruel. I stayed silent. Some truths don't need repeating. She swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to." "Yes, you did," I said softly. "You just didn't think it would cost you anything." I signed the papers, pushed them across the table, and stood. For the first time in years, I felt light. As I walked away, she whispered, "Does she know how much she ruined?" I paused, turned slightly. "No," I said. "You did that all on your own." Outside, the air was crisp, the city alive with quiet sound, the kind of steady hum that reminds you the world keeps turning even when yours has stopped. I took a deep breath and smiled faintly. Sometimes it doesn't take revenge or shouting to reclaim your peace. Sometimes it only takes walking away and meaning it